I really appreciate the question. Um, is this a Tammy that's on I see we have a Tammy here. I wonder if it's the same. Thank you for this question. Um, I feel like all engagement that we do um, has to be as humble as possible and start with that kind of 4-step approach that we have put together. The idea of humbly observing where people struggle. It's funny because I've seen this show up in a lot of places now. And I think some people have started to use it as a slogan or an ideal, and maybe don't sincerely mean it or think we sincerely mean it, but we like sincerely mean this. I gave the example in the article I wrote a while back about my city comprehensive planning process. And we don't have a lot of racial diversity here, but we do have people who are clearly marginalized and not part of the process. And there was a sensitivity within the conversation, the official conversation that involved all the important people in town. Well, we need to go out and make sure that we're listening to, in this case, it was the youth and, youth who would be, I'm going to say this kindly, this is my city, the youth that would stay, not the youth that are going to leave right after high school and go off to college, but the ones who are going to stay. How do we engage with them? And we went out to this place called The Shop, which is kind of like a gathering place for youth. And we set up a meeting with them and we sat in the room, and the people running the meeting, the official comp plan assemblers, asked all the wrong questions. What's your vision for the city? What is your hope for the future? What do you think our top challenges are? These were people who day to day were trying to, a lot of them were just trying to like get to their job. A couple of them were still in high school. Like, how do we finish things up? How do we stay afloat? Like they were not thinking long-term about the city, nor should they, right? That wasn't their job. That wasn't their role in this society. They're too busy doing other stuff. So the questions finally got around to, I think, things that mattered. How'd you get here today? Where do you work? Where do you live? How do you get from one to the other? What is your life actually like? And how do you experience this city? And the recommendation that came out of this was we need to spend some time actually out with people, not asking them in a sterilized group, like, what do they think and what their priorities are? Because the reality is that conversation was absurd. At one point they asked, do you think we have enough parking in the city? And, everybody looked around and they're like, no, we don't have enough parking. We need more parking. And then I asked the question, how many of you have cars? And like one of the 15 of them had a car. Like, okay, how are you getting around? Well, we're walking or we're biking. So now the questions are framed in their lives. And I think that is the key to engaging with any group. When we go in and our question is, do we have enough parking? Because that's the thing we're obsessed about. Or what are the top 3 challenges you think we're facing? Because that's the way we frame questions in our world. We're not going in with the humility that we need to truly understand where someone is, where they're struggling. And in the 4-step process of Strong Towns, if you don't truly understand where someone is struggling, to use the community, to use the neighborhood, to exist in this place, you can't ask the next step, right? Humbly observe where people are struggling. Ask ourselves, what's the next smallest thing we can do to address that? Do that thing and then repeat the process. We have to be able to get to that second step and try stuff to make things better. We can't do that if we're not humble in our approach. I also think if the idea is we are going to, in a discrete period of time, engage a group. There's Black people in this neighborhood, and we want to engage Black people because fill in the blank reason. I am just like really turned off by that. I'm not suggesting that's what you're suggesting, but I see a lot of places that do that. And I'm really turned off by that conversation because it's almost like a checkbox that needs to be checked off. If we're going to engage with fill in the blank, any community. We have to do it on an ongoing, permanent basis as a part of a humbly act of service and an act of understanding, and then iteration. I think this is the only way that those engagements will be genuine and actually lead to something positive.